The house always wins. You've heard it 1,000 times. But here's what nobody tells you. The house doesn't win because it cheats. It doesn't win because the games are rigged. It wins because of something far more elegant, far more ruthless, and far more profitable than anything you'd find at a card table. The house wins because it built a machine, and you walked inside it willingly. But here's the question nobody asks. What does it actually cost to build that machine? What does it take to keep it running? And where does the money actually go when the night is over and the lights finally dim? Most people think owning a casino is simple. People gamble. You take a cut. You get rich. That is not how this business works. A casino is one of the most capital-intensive, heavily regulated, operationally complex businesses on Earth. And the difference between the ones that print money and the ones that quietly disappear has almost nothing to do with luck. To understand the economics of a casino, you have to understand where the business came from, because the modern casino didn't emerge from thin air. It was built on a foundation of organized crime, political corruption, and one of the most ruthless competitive environments in American business history. Las Vegas in the 1940s was a small desert railroad town. Population, roughly 8,000 people. The kind of place you passed through on the way to somewhere else. Then Bugsy Siegel arrived. Benjamin Siegel, known as Bugsy to everyone except himself, was a senior figure in the American mob, connected to Meyer Lansky, Lucky Luciano, and the National Crime Syndicate, and he had a vision. A luxury resort hotel in the Nevada desert, where gambling was legal, and the money could flow freely. The Flamingo opened on December 26, 1946. It was a disaster, cost overruns, bad weather, half the facilities unfinished. The mob was furious. 6 months later, Bugsy Siegel was shot dead in his girlfriend's Beverly Hills living room, but the Flamingo survived, and the model it established, the resort casino, transformed Las Vegas from a desert railroad stop into the most profitable entertainment destination on Earth. For the next 3 decades, the mob ran Las Vegas. They skimmed cash from the count rooms, money that disappeared before it was ever recorded. They built hidden ownership structures, fronted by legitimate businessmen, while the real profits flowed back to Chicago, New York, and Kansas City. The Nevada Gaming Control Board existed, but struggled to penetrate the layers of deception. It was the FBI and a series of federal prosecutions in the late 1970s and 1980s that finally broke the mob's grip on Las Vegas. And what replaced them was something even more powerful. The corporations. When Howard Hughes arrived in Las Vegas in 1966, checking into the Desert Inn with a convoy of bodyguards and a suitcase full of paranoia, and then buying the hotel when management asked him to leave, the era of corporate casino ownership had begun. By the 1980s and 1990s, publicly traded companies like MGM, Hilton, and Steve Wynn's Mirage Resorts had replaced the mob bosses. The skimming was over. The accounting was meticulous. The profits were reported to shareholders, and the machine became exponentially more sophisticated. Forget the slot machines for a moment. Before you take a single bet, before you open a single table, the costs are staggering. A major Las Vegas Strip resort casino requires somewhere between $1 billion and $5 billion to build. That's not an exaggeration. The Wynn Las Vegas cost $2.7 billion when it opened in 2005. The Cosmopolitan, $4 billion. City Center, $8.5 billion for the entire complex. But even smaller regional casinos, the kind you find in Mississippi, Indiana, or rural Pennsylvania, require $200 million to $500 million in upfront capital. The licensing process alone can take 2 to 5 years and cost millions in legal fees, background investigations, and regulatory filings before a single chip is placed on a table. Every owner, every investor above a certain threshold, every key employee, subjected to the most thorough background investigation short of a national security clearance. And that's just to get permission to try. Once you have permission, the build-out begins. The gaming floor itself, which has to be designed to specific regulatory standards, costs hundreds of millions to equip. Slot machines, the backbone of most casino revenue, run between $10,000 and $25,000 each. A typical regional casino might have 1,000 to 2,000 machines. That's $10 million to $50 million in slot machines alone before you've bought a single card table. Here is the core of the business, the house edge. Every game in a casino is designed with a mathematical advantage for the house, not a huge advantage, just a small, relentless, mathematically guaranteed advantage that compounds over millions of bets. American roulette, 5.26% house edge. Blackjack, as low as 0.5% with perfect strategy. Slot machines, typically 4 to 10%. Keno, sometimes as high as 25%. These numbers might seem small, but here's what they mean in practice. If a slot machine takes in $1,000 per day, and the house edge is 8%, the casino keeps $80 every single day. Whether the economy is booming or crashing, whether there's a pandemic or a recession, whether the player wins big or loses everything. Over the course of a year, that single machine generates $29,200. Multiply by 2,000 machines, and you have $58.4 million annually from slot machines alone, before a single table game is dealt, before a single hotel room is booked, before a single drink is sold. The mathematics never sleep. They never take a vacation. They compound silently, invisibly, turning the laws of probability into the most reliable revenue stream in retail. But the mathematics of casino economics get genuinely fascinating when you separate the customers. Because a casino does not treat all gamblers the same way, it can't afford to. At the bottom of the pyramid, the casual recreational gambler comes to Las Vegas for a weekend, budgets $500 to lose, plays the slots, has a few drinks, sees a show. This customer is not very profitable on a per-head basis, but they are extremely important because they are the volume, the foot traffic, the energy on the floor, the reason the hotel rooms are full, and the restaurants have waiting lists. In the middle of the pyramid, the serious recreational gambler, higher stakes, longer sessions, more sophisticated game selection. These customers generate meaningful revenue and respond well to loyalty programs and comp systems. At the top of the pyramid, the whale, the high roller, the VIP who arrives by private jet, gets a penthouse suite comped, plays Baccarat at $100,000 a hand, and might lose, or win, millions in a single weekend. This is where casino economics become genuinely extraordinary. A single whale, playing at the right stakes for the right number of hours, can generate more revenue for a casino in a single visit than tens of thousands of casual gamblers combined. MGM Resorts has publicly acknowledged that a small number of VIP customers, sometimes fewer than 100 individuals, account for a disproportionate share of total casino revenue. Baccarat, the game of choice for Asian high rollers, generated over $1 billion in revenue for Las Vegas casinos in peak years, played almost exclusively by a tiny fraction of the total customer base. The entire VIP operation, private jet transfers, penthouse suites, personal hosts, custom credit lines, is simply the cost of acquiring and retaining customers, whose expected value per visit justifies that extraordinary level of service. But the comp system doesn't just exist for whales, it exists for everyone, and it is one of the most sophisticated customer retention mechanisms ever devised. Every time you insert your player's card into a slot machine, or hand it to a dealer at a table, you are feeding data into a system. That system tracks every bet you make, every game you play, how long you play, how much you wager per hour, and based on that data, the casino calculates your theoretical loss. Not what you actually lost, what you were statistically expected to lose, based on the house edge of the games you played, and the volume of your betting. That theoretical loss number drives your comp allocation, free rooms, free meals, free show tickets, free flights, all of it calibrated precisely, to give you just enough to keep you coming back, without giving away so much that the relationship becomes unprofitable. The math behind comps is exquisitely precise. A casino might comp a customer $200 in free meals for a player whose theoretical loss is $2,000. A 10% reinvestment rate, still leaving $1,800 in expected profit from that relationship. The comp feels like generosity. It is actually a mathematically optimized customer acquisition cost. Here is the number most people don't know. In a modern integrated resort casino, gambling is often not the largest source of revenue. The Wynn Las Vegas generates roughly 40% of its revenue from non-gaming sources. Hotel rooms, restaurants, nightclubs, spas, retail, entertainment. The MGM Grand, one of the most famous casinos in the world, generates nearly 60% of its revenue from non-gaming operations. This is not an accident. It is a deliberate strategic evolution. The casino floor is no longer just a profit center. It is a traffic driver. It brings people into the building, keeps them there longer, and creates the opportunity to sell them rooms, meals, shows, and experiences at margins that often exceed the gambling floor itself. A hotel room on the Las Vegas Strip, sold at $400 per night, carries margins well above 70%. A restaurant meal in a celebrity chef restaurant carries margins of 25 to 35%. A nightclub, where bottles of vodka sell for $500, carries margins that make the gaming floor look modest. The most profitable casinos on earth have figured out that the gambling is just the hook. The real business is everything that happens around it. Running a casino is operationally unlike almost any other business. The gaming floor runs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. No holidays, no weekends, no slow season. The machines never stop. The tables never close. Staffing alone is a massive undertaking. A major Las Vegas resort employs somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 people. Dealers, pit bosses, surveillance operators, cage cashiers, security, hotel staff, restaurant staff, entertainment staff, maintenance crews, and the surveillance operation, the eye in the sky, is among the most sophisticated in the world. Every square inch of the gaming floor is monitored by cameras that can read the serial numbers on a bill from 30 feet away, by software that tracks betting patterns and flags anomalies that might indicate cheating or advantage play, by trained surveillance analysts who watch feeds around the clock. The cost of this surveillance infrastructure runs into tens of millions of dollars for a major property, but it is non-negotiable because the threat of cheating from both sides of the table is a permanent feature of this business. Card counting is not illegal, but casinos are private property, and they are legally allowed to refuse service to anyone. A sophisticated card counter, playing perfect blackjack strategy, can swing the house edge from 0.5% against them to 1 to 2% in their favor, which is why every major casino maintains a database of known counters and shares it across the industry. The surveillance operation is not just about catching cheats, it is about protecting the mathematics. So what does owning a casino actually make? A major Las Vegas Strip resort with 3,000 hotel rooms, a large gaming floor, multiple restaurants and entertainment venues might generate total revenues of $1 billion to $3 billion per year. EBITDA margins, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, typically run between 25 and 35%, which sounds excellent, until you remember the debt load. A casino that cost $3 billion to build, financed with 60 to 70% debt, carries somewhere between $1.8 billion and $2.1 billion in long-term obligations. Interest payments alone can run $100 million to $150 million per year. The margin looks great until you service the debt. A well-run regional casino, with lower build costs and less competition, can actually generate better returns on equity than a strip megaproject. The $300 million regional casino, generating $100 million in annual revenue, at 30% EBITDA margins, producing $30 million a year, is a dramatically better return on capital than a $4 billion strip resort producing $800 million in revenue, but carrying $2.5 billion in debt. The glamour is on the strip. The returns are often in Biloxi, Mississippi. The casino is not a simple business. It is a machine. Built on mathematics, psychology, capital, regulation, hospitality, and surveillance, all running simultaneously, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The house always wins, not because it cheats, but because it built a system where every variable is controlled, every outcome is modeled, every customer is understood, and the mathematics never stop working. You walked in willingly, and the machine was waiting. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe.